Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, the show's about to start. Guaranteed to blow your head apart. Come inside, the show's about to start. Guaranteed to blow your head apart. You gotta see the show. It's a dynamo. You gotta see the show. It's rock and roll.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking some of your Saturday morning or afternoon or evening or night or possibly even Sunday morning, depending on where precisely on the globe you are located at this moment. And I appreciate you taking that time and joining us here. This is going to be some geeky stuff. I've been looking forward to this all week. This is stuff I just kind of can't get enough of. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I see a lot of familiar names in the chat, and I see a lot of not so familiar names, which is awesome. So get to make some new friends, meet some new folks, some new fellow crazy traders, because we traders are a crazy bunch. You got to be kind of at least a little bit nuts to want to do this. So, all right. That being said, this is going to be Platform Prowess, 5 Sierra chart productivity tips and tricks. And just to clarify, like I had to cut it off at something. Otherwise, this could be a 4-day webinar of just endlessly talking about all the crazy cool things you can do in Sierra. So I picked 5 out of a big list that I have put together, and we're just going to start with those. So this is, of course, brought to you by Trading Research Group, and I am Jonathan Van Kloot. Most of you probably already have some idea of who I am, either from the Facebook group or the YouTube channel or TRG itself, etc. But for those of you who don't, I will talk a little bit about who I am and where I've come from in a moment. So treat this as if you were in person at a conference or a lecture. If you want to have a side conversation, don't do it in the public chat. You can communicate with each other directly in the Zoom chat. So if you want to send something private to somebody who says something and you've got something to say about that to them that's just for them, you feel free to do that privately. But that way there isn't just a mountain of stuff that I have to scroll through when it becomes time to answer questions and things like that. It just makes it more efficient for me to be able to manage the questions and get answers and everything. So just try to keep anything that's not directly relevant to what I'm saying, out of the public chat if you could. I also tend to go really fast, and I want to keep this not crazy long either. So, I'm going to try not to go too fast, but definitely ask your questions along the way. And the absolute best way to ask a question is actually going to be to simply type a Q in the chat and hit return. That way I will see, there is a question coming from Bob. And so I know that there's something coming from him, because otherwise, if you've got kind of a long involved question, or maybe a question that you're trying to formulate in your head as you're typing, you're trying to figure out how to ask it or whatever, I might say, okay, are there any questions? And I wait 5 or 10 seconds. If there's no questions, I move on. And then 15 seconds later, you finally are done typing your question and send it. And then I'm like, oh, there was a question. Shoot, now I got to back up. So if you could just do that, send a Q in the chat, hit return, then type your question. That way I know, okay, there's going to be something coming from Bob or from Virginia or whoever. So I would really appreciate that. That'll definitely help to keep it so that if there aren't any questions, I can just keep moving on. And if I see a bunch of Qs popping up, then I know, okay, there are some questions coming. So as I was kind of mentioning, I want to keep this kind of tight. I'm aiming for an hour. So the better we can just kind of keep things trucking and moving along smoothly, the better our chances of actually hitting an hour. And then you can all go enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, morning, whatever it is. So to answer the question that has already been asked a couple times and is always asked on these things, yes, everything is being recorded, and everybody will be sent a link to the recording probably within 24 hours, possibly even quicker, depending on just how quickly Vimeo and Zoom and everybody processes the material, and then how quickly I can compile it and edit it and put it out. So it'll probably also go up on the YouTube channel. This is a public event, meeting, free, whatever. So there's no reason to keep it behind any kind of gate or anything like that. So it'll be out there. You will all be able to access it afterwards. So the only thing left for you to do is sit back and enjoy the ride, right? So let's jump in. So first of all, who the heck am I? I know a bunch of you already know me, but a quick brief intro to me is I am, of course, Jonathan Van Kloot. I go by JVC in the TRG community just because JVC is a lot quicker and easier to type. So I pretty much keep the TRG community running smoothly. I have the unofficial title of cat herder. Those of you who have ever had cats will understand that reference. It's basically an impossibility, but I do my best to kind of herd everybody and keep everything going how it's supposed to go. So I started trading around, I can't actually remember, it was 98, 99, 2000. It was somewhere right in there. And I started with options. I know a lot of people start with options. Options were really big back then. There were options classes being taught all over the place. And I took some very expensive ones. And, I went through all the usual stuff that everybody has been through since then. Chunks of time in the market, out of the market, in the market, out of the market. Took lots and lots of crap courses and ebooks and webinars and seminars and live in-person courses and, fly to Las Vegas for a weekend. And I've done all of that crap. Of course, I didn't know it was crap. That's the trick. But I had the usual blown accounts, lots of small wins, lots of large losses, the usual. I stumbled into TRG about March of 2020, and straight away I could see that there was something really special here. This was not like the other stuff I'd been through. And so I made the decision. And I'm, for those of you who follow my blog posts, I just wrote a blog post the other day for TRG on making a decision, on deciding. And I decided that it was time to get serious about developing the skills of a trader, because it is a skill. And I'm a musician. I've been a musician my whole life. I'll talk about that in just a second. But, it's a skill you have to practice at, you have to train at, just like learning, say, a musical instrument or a language or any number of other things. And I decided it was time to do that. After a little while in TRG, I offered to help produce the videos for them, because once upon a time in my past life, I was a video editor for a living. And I started a post-production facility, and I ran that for a few years until the .com implosion, when all of my clients stopped making videos and my business went kaput. But I have a background in video. So, hey, why not help out? And I wanted to get more involved. And then I was so involved in the community that they formally offered me the role of community manager effective January 1st of 2021. And here we are today. I think it's safe to say obsessed with efficiency and optimization of everything in my life. And that especially extends to software. If there's a way to do something faster, easier, less keystrokes, less mouse clicks, whatever, I will figure it out and I will do it. And I'm a big fan of like macro software, auto hotkey, for those who know that. I used to use, oh my gosh, what was it? I'm brain farting what it was called. The old thing back on the Mac back in the late 80s. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. Quick keys. That was it. Oh God, that would be terrible to not remember that. So I'm obsessed with that stuff, and I love sharing it. If I figure out some tip or trick, like the first thing I want to do is go to somebody else who would care and be like, oh my God, you have to check this out. This is awesome. You're going to love this. I've been a musician all my life. As I mentioned, I played piano since I was, actually before I can remember, but probably 2 or 3. Started writing music when I was 3 or 4. That I know for a fact, because I still have the piece of sheet music from back then. I'm a cat dad, as you can see in the picture there. There's one of my unfortunately dearly departed, no longer with us, but got 5 currently, family of 5 plus myself and my partner. We are in our 22nd year of being happily unmarried. And I'm born and raised here in Silicon Valley, and I've never left. I have never lived anywhere outside of the Bay Area, and never want to. I'm a total technology junkie. Our house is ridiculously teched up. But as much as I am platform agnostic, at least I try to be platform agnostic. That's a big thing within TRG, is we believe that a good trader can do what they need to do with any set of good quality tools. The tools, you should not be unable to trade without your preferred platform. That being said, I really, really like Sierra Chart. It took me a while. I will admit, it took me a while to get to that point. My first introduction to Sierra Chart, I was a little bit like, what the hell is this weird thing? But I stuck with it. And after a little while, things started to click. And then I realized just how powerful it was, and realized that this is a toolbox. It's not a push button, pre-built. Everything is just there for you. You use their templates and you use their provided filters, or whatever. It wasn't like that. Once I accepted and understood that, the world opened for me. So huge Sierra Chart fan, and that's what's brought us here today. So What am I going to talk about today? Well, here you go. Here's the list. I'm going to talk about, this is not crazy advanced stuff. Okay. I'm not starting in the deep end of the pool. So for some of you, if you've been with Sierra for a long time, or you're a efficiency junkie like me, this may be trivial stuff. You may already know all this stuff. Although, quite frankly, at least a couple of these are things that even one of the TRG founders, Lee, who's not with us today because it's nighttime for him, he didn't know. And they were things that I would see him do the painful way. And I finally was like, Lee, there's a better way to do these things. And so he's gradually coming around to using some of these tricks. So these are the things we're going to talk about: how to be alerted when you lose a data feed connection, how to make sure your time zones are right, because that's a subtle thing, but it can really screw you up if you have it wrong. Going to talk about being able to really quickly toggle your time frames if you need to change them. We're going to break the fill space lock. Those of you who ever messed around with fill space in Sierra, it's a weird concept. I've never encountered it anywhere but Sierra, and it can really just make you miserable if you don't know just one simple trick to improve your usability with it. I'm going to tell you how you can be a hotkey hotshot, and if we have time, I got a bonus item in mind. We'll see if we can get to it. Let's do it, shall we? All right. And there we go. All right. So what I have here is a brand spanking new, fresh install of Sierra. Everything at defaults. So there is nothing preset, nothing pre-built. Everything is just as it comes from the factory, so to speak. This is, blank, empty, everything. And first thing I need to do is I need a chart to work with. So I'm just going to make a new intraday chart. And this isn't a tip or a trick or anything like that. You should frankly already know how to do this. I'm not going to explain it or anything. I'm just going to pop open ES and, here we go. It's a chart of ES. Nothing fancy. So the first thing I'm going to start with is how to make sure that you get alerted when your connection goes down, when your data feed goes down. In fact, on that note, let me ask in the chat, if you would be so kind, who in the chat right now has ever had the experience of having suddenly like your orders aren't going through, or like you're not getting a fill, or everything just you already know where I'm going. We're already saying, yep, me, and you don't realize that your connection has dropped. Stops, all kinds of things. But it turns out that it was a connection disconnect that lasted 10 or 15 seconds, but you didn't know that that's what it was. Anybody else ever run into that? You ever had that happen? Yep. So, yep. Okay. So definitely I figured as much. This is why I wanted to bring this up, because it's such a simple thing. But if you don't get an alert to notify you, specifically audibly, I'm a big fan of audible alerts. I don't want to miss something because I wasn't looking at the screen. I want something yelling at me if there's a problem. So here's how you do that. It's really quite simple, but it requires a couple of steps. So the first thing is you got to go into global settings, general settings. And within general settings, and by the way, this depending on, there's a possibility you're on an old version of Sierra. Some people I know, they stay on old versions forever, for a long time, for various reasons. They have custom studies that they can't run a newer version because it'll break, or whatever. Or some people just prefer not to update their software unless they have to. And I completely get that. And I'm like that with certain things as well. But if your interface looks different, because this is the new, relatively new Sierra UI for dialog boxes, or for settings and whatnot. So yours could look different from this, in which case, the names of things should be the same. It's just that the look is going to be different. So you might have to kind of translate how it looks here to what it looks like on yours. But bottom line is, pop open your general settings, go to General tab 2. Okay. In General 2, you've got two things here. You've got Server Connected Alert and Server Connection Lost Alert. Now, I don't personally care about being notified when my server's connected. I'm not. That's me. If you want that, you can set this up the same way as I'm going to show you how to do when your connection's lost. But for me, when the connection is lost, oh yeah, I want to know immediately. You better notify me right away. I don't want to be looking away at another screen and not know that my connection has dropped. And then I come back to look and I'm like, what the hell happened? It's way past my stop. What? Or whatever. So here's what you need to do. First of all, in this no alert sound, you got to change that. So you click this once to kind of activate it, turns blue, right? Then you click it again and, oh, look, you get a list box, right? Or drop down. And there's all these alert, tons of them. It goes down to like alert 100, or no, gosh, 200. Wow. but there's no names or anything like that. So it's not immediately obvious what you do with this. And if I choose alert 1 here and I hit, apply, it's like, oh, well, that's great. But what is that? What is that actual sound? For example, if I go in here and I disconnect, I'm gonna not do this with the hotkeys. I got to remember. I'm so tempted. I normally just reflexively use hotkeys to do things all the time, but then you won't know what I did. So if I disconnect here, right? Oh, okay. You know what? Actually, it does do a default ding. Okay, I thought it was actually going to do nothing, but it does the default Windows ding. But really, is that going to grab your attention? I'm going to guess probably not. I know I wouldn't notice a little ding. I probably would look over and be like, what the hell was that? I don't see anything. So whatever. So what we need to do is change what alert 1 is. To do that, you have to go into the alerts tab. And you can do these in whichever order. The order is not important, but you do have to do both. So alert, right? Alert 1 is the one we want to change, right? I don't want to change the others. I'm using alert 1. So alert 1. What we're going to do is say, well, what is the alert sound file name? Okay. It's an empty box. It looks like there's nothing there, but if you click it, you get this, you can enter stuff here, right? Well, what are you supposed to put in there? Well, what you do is you say select, and now it's got a whole bunch of sound files included. Now, a lot of these are stuff that I have created. I've made sound files myself that actually carried over from an old copy that I had floating around. So you won't see necessarily every single one of the things that I have in here, but you will see a bunch of sounds. And they actually recently even added stuff like speaking sounds. So this is a voice that says, high priority message on support board or whatever, if that's important to you. But what I like to do is I want something loud and obnoxious, right? So I like buzzer 2. If I choose buzzer 2, hit open, and hit apply. Now, this is important. Now, if I hit test sound, if I double click this test sound, and again, this is not obvious. This is a button, believe it or not. You can't tell it's a button. See, it says button over here. But that's not terribly obvious. This is actually a button, but you have to double click it. So if I double click this, nothing happens. Well, why does nothing happen? Because I haven't applied. You have to apply it. Now, there's my nasty, ugly, can't miss it buzzer. Right? But I have to double click this test sound text. This is very uniquely Sierra, right? No, I've never seen another program do this. Other programs have buttons, like actual visible interface UI element buttons that you can't miss. But this is actually a button. You know that because it says button over here. And you know what? I was actually mistaken. You don't have to double click this. I thought you did, but it's actually a single click. But the key thing here is it says button. That's telling you that this is in fact a button. So not obvious. But now if I reconnect, okay, we'll reconnect to the data feed. There we go. It's downloading, but there's nothing to download because it's a Saturday. And now if I disconnect, what happens? Boom. I get an immediate notification. If I hear that, I know, oh crap, drop whatever I'm doing and go look at my screen if I wasn't. If I'm in another room, I can have my volume turned up real loud. Like if I have to step out of the room real quick or something, whatever. I want to know the instant my connection is dropped, and now I will, and I will not miss that. So that is how you can add an audible alert for your connection disconnecting. So you will never again be caught off guards by a disconnect and you don't understand what happened and possibly have losses, which is all sorts of no fun. Are there any questions about that particular tip or anything that anybody wants to ask or discuss about that one? If there is, as I said earlier, throw a Q in the chat just so that I know there's something coming. And then I will give you a moment to type or whatever. And if there's not, in about 10, 15 seconds or so, I will move on to the next one. Okay, Bob's got a question. Awesome. Bob, type away. Custom sounds. Okay, you know what? While Bob is typing his question, Edward, I will talk about custom sounds because you can absolutely do that. All you really have to do is, whoops, I need to drag this over. Hang on. Okay, drag it over here. All you really need to do is go to your copy of Sierra Chart. I have so many copies. I'll just go into this one. And in this folder, you have a folder called Alert Sounds. Right. And in alert sounds is all of the available audio file, sound file alerts. Anything you throw in here, as long as it's a WAV file, right? It's got to be a WAV, not an MP3. It's got to be a WAV. Anything you throw in here will show up as an available alert sound. So I actually, on my list of tips to talk about in another session is creating custom voice. Because I like my platform to talk to me, with the exception of like if there's a problem, like when the disconnect, I want an ugly, nasty sound that I can't miss. But for other things like orders and profit targets reached or stuff like that, whatever, I want it to talk to me. So I created a whole bunch of custom sound files, and my platform will talk to me. Stuff like let me find a good one. Well, here, first hour high.
First hour high.
Right. So that's what my platform says if I want it to, whenever it hits the first hour, gets close to the first hour high.
First hour high.
So you can do stuff like that. And then all you got to do is drop it in here and it's available. So a WAV file is just a standard audio file format in Windows. I've never seen an audio program that can't save a WAV file. And if you download sound effects off the web, odds are going to be that they're available as a WAV. If by chance you can only get an MP3, there's lots of free ways to convert MP3s to WAV files. Very, very simple. So I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but that's something that we can certainly talk about later in another session in more depth. So. All right. Do you have any? Bob's question was the same. Any comments on creating customized sound files? So there you go, Bob. Hopefully that gets you pointed in the right direction. Although Bob, you're in TRG, so hit me up in the pit if you want to talk about that, or you want some pointers or anything like that. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. You can also put the status bar in a custom toolbar for a visual. That is a great point, Mike. That's an awesome bonus tip. You can do these custom control bars, right? This is a control bar up here. In fact, if I right click it and I say float, for example, I can move it, right? And you can do stuff like this. And I could just stick this somewhere visual. I could put it on another monitor, whatever. And now you've got a visual, which is nice. I do like visuals, but for me, the problem I have, and this is going to be different for everybody, but for me, because I'm simultaneously trading and often on a TRG session, and I'm handling that and helping to monitor that, and then might also be watching in the community, which we call the pit, and there's people asking me stuff in there, and so my attention is not always 100% focused on my main trading screen. It probably should be, in all honesty, but sometimes there's nothing to do. It's a sit on hands moment, so I'm just killing time anyway, so why not? But if I'm looking over to my left, which is where my laptop is, which is where I do my admin work, then my trading machine is for trading, and that's it. Something could happen and I don't see it, and so that's the trouble I have. That's why I love the Audible alerts, because I'll hear it and it'll make me go immediately, uh-oh, what, and totally drop whatever I'm doing and pay attention. So you can go on Sierra Chart website and create your sound file. Go on their website and create. Are you talking about text to speech? Their text to speech feature, Alessandro? Because that's a different thing. Yeah. Okay. There is that's a worthwhile point. I'll talk to it right now real quick. Sierra Chart does have its own built-in text to speech feature. Let me just put this back on attached to top. There we go. And in fact, I'll just show you where it is. If you, let's see, it's under, I think it's alerts. Yeah. Text to speech WAV file creation. However, and maybe this has changed. I don't know. And Alessandro, maybe if you use this feature, you can inform me of this, but it used to be, at least, and maybe it still is, that these cost money. If you wanted to use Sierra Chart themselves to create your text file, yes, they're 50 cents a beat, right? You don't need to. There's no need to pay anything. You can do it completely for free. So that's what I do. I've never paid a penny for text to speech. That seems silly to me. Why would you pay for that? That makes no sense. But again, we'll save that for another session, and we can go deep into, I can show you the software I use, where you can get it free, all that. All right. Awesome. That looks like it's it for questions on that tip. So let's move on to the next one. Good stuff, guys. Thank you for that. Let me reconnect to the data feed as well while we're at it. There we go. All right. So the next thing is to get your time zones right. And this is a subtle thing that it actually took me quite some time to realize what was going on here and what the differences were. So let me ask another question of you all. Have any of you, when you're looking at your trade activity log, right, which is this guy, of course, there's no data in this one, but imagine there were trades in here. Has anybody in the room ever done this and been scratching your head on the stupid time zone? The time here doesn't match. It's mad. Like your chart might be on New York time, but you're somewhere else, and that they don't match. So you're having to do mental gymnastics in your head to figure out, okay, wait, it's I started trading this morning at 6 a.m. my time, but they're on this time. So whatever. Yeah, I'm seeing some yeses coming through. Okay. So here's the deal on that, because this took me a long time as well and drove me freaking bananas until I finally stopped and said, okay, I need to figure this out. What's going on? And I realized, oh, this is so simple and obvious, but it escaped me. The trade activity log, the time and date here, is based on your global time zone in Sierra chart. But the charts are based in, potentially, they can be one of two things. You can, whoops, I shouldn't do it that way. Sorry. I'll go to chart settings. I just hit I hit F5 by just reflex. The charts have their own option for time zone here on advanced settings. And right now, by default, they're all set to use global time zone. But something that there's two different schools of thought. Like, for example, Jeff, he likes everything to be in his time zone, and he's Pacific time, like myself. We're both in California. And so he likes everything to be on Pacific time. That way, he just never has to think any differently. He can just think in his time zone. Lee, on the other hand, he prefers to have the charts in the time zone of the exchange that the instrument trades on. And when I first was introduced to that way of thinking, I thought, oh, I didn't like it. It sounded complicated and messy, but the longer I traded futures, the longer I got comfortable with these instruments and with what exchange they're on and where they trade. And, the more I started to see the logic in that. So like ES is on Central Time because it's in Chicago. Oil, CL, on the other hand, is in Eastern Time on New York time because it's in New York. So, it's the NYMEX, and, other instruments, if I was trading Eurex or, whatever, they would be in the time zone of that place, because then that way all I have to do is know local time to them. What time do they open? Oh, they open at 8 a.m. Oh, they open at 6 a.m. Oh, they open at 9 a.m., whatever. And then it's 9 a.m. on my chart, what have you. And so I got used to that, and I really like that. So that's what I do now, is every chart is always in the time zone of the instrument I'm dealing with. And that does mean that when where's Chicago? Just right in front of me. When I first set up a chart, I have to get my session times set correctly, and I need to set them to the time in Chicago time in this case. And so that's what I do. But then the trade activity log report, if I go under global settings, time zone settings, right here, time zone, and it defaults to UTC, which makes it even worse, right? If you don't realize this is defaulted this way, then your default time zone makes no sense whatsoever. And you might have fixed your charts to all be in the time zone you want them to be in, but you don't realize that your global time zone is still UTC. So then you look at your trade activity log, and it really makes no sense. It's not in your time zone. It's not in the time zone of your charts. It's in this other weird time zone that, unless you happen to live in UTC, isn't going to make any sense whatsoever. And you're just going to be scratching your head. So change the time zone globally, change it to your local time. Los Angeles for me. I'm not in Los Angeles, but that's California. And if I do that, now my trade activity log reports will all be in my time zone. So when I want to look at a report and figure out, how did I do today? How did I do in the first hour? How did I trade a period? Whatever. I don't have to think about, oh, wait, let's see, a period in New York time is, God, what is that? That's 6 a.m. No, wait, 6:30. It depends on, am I talking equities or oil? All this mental gymnastics goes away. And now my reports are in my time zone. My charts are in the instrument time zone. Simple. So that has saved me much, much headache once I figured that out, and made my job of looking at my reports and making sense of how I performed at different times of the day is now a piece of cake, because they're always in my time zone. So that's it for that one. Any questions on that? If there is, throw a Q in the chat, please, so I know there's a question coming. Otherwise, if I don't see anything in 10 seconds or so, we will move on. Next one, time frame toggling. This is something that many of you may already know. I would like to think everybody already knows this, but maybe not, because I still see people do it kind of the manual way. So let me just ask everybody here on the session, how many of, or not how many, but do any of you, if you want to change your time frame, like this is a 1 minute chart right now, right? 1 minute. Yes. If you wanted to change this to say a 60-minute, how many of you can just throw, in fact, here's the way to answer this. This is tip number 1, 2, 3. This is tip number 3. So if you do the following, put a 3 in the chat. And that is, let's say you want to change the time frame. So you go to chart settings, and you type something here. Like I want this to be a 60-minute chart. So I go 0-60-0. If you do that to change your time frame, put a 3 in the chat, would you please? And it's possible that none of you do, in which case, good, because that is the most painful, manual, clunky, awful way to do it. Looks like nobody does that. That's excellent. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. So on the off chance, oh no, okay, so John does it. All right, great. So at least John, this will benefit you, and possibly some others who listen to the recording later, and possibly some who didn't want to admit to it. Okay, awesome. I see a few other people saying, "Yep, you do this." All right, great. That's awesome. So this tip is going to be a lifesaver for you then, especially if you do this with any frequency. I don't really ever change my time frames. I trade a session dome, and then I look at a 30-minute chart. Or 30-minute footprint, rather. I trade a session footprint. Let me rephrase that. I trade a session footprint, and then I look at a 30-minute footprint, and that's basically about it. That's all I really look at. So I never change anything. But if you do, and a lot of people do, they like to go back and forth between 1 minute and 5 minute and 60-minute, and whatever. All you have to do is make sure that whatever chart you want to do this on has focus. And in fact, to illustrate this better, I'm going to detach this so it's just a floating window, right? So it needs to have focus. If I had another window, let me just do this. Let me duplicate this just to have a second chart. Let's imagine we had 2 different charts. Okay, I'll just toss this one over here. Notice right now that this chart here has focus, right? That's because you can tell that is the case because its title bar here is visible and clear, and you can see it's not highlighted, that's the wrong word, but everything, the X is in red, and you can obviously see this has focus, and this one does not, right? The title bar is kind of grayed out, and the X is not red, etc. So selected or focused, depending on developers tend to use focus, but yes, the window is selected. That's a more layman's person of saying it. Whichever one is selected or has focus, all you have to do is type. If I want to stay in minutes, like right now, this is a 60-minute chart. Let's say I want to change this to a 5-minute chart. Literally, all I have to do is type 5 on my keyboard and hit enter. It's now a 5-minute chart. I want a 1-minute chart, 1, enter. I want a 30-minute chart, 30, enter. 60-minute chart, 60, enter. 4-hour chart, 480, enter. It's that quick and easy. 1, enter. Now, even better than that, let's say this was on a 30-minute chart, right? Yeah. Is that not awesome? It's one of my favorite things. Although even, like I said, I never change timeframes anymore. But back when I used to change timeframes a lot, this was just such a time saver. But it gets better. There's a better aspect to this. If I want to change, say I want to make this a 15-second chart. Right. And I know to some of you, 15-second chart probably sounds completely insane, but it's actually a very, very standard chart speed that we use, particularly for scalping. It's like Jeff's kind of go-to time frame for high speed, in and out, quick scalping, where you want to know what's happening right now. 1 minute is way too slow. So if I wanted to make this a 15-second chart, all I got to do is type 15 and an S, and you can even see, if you notice right here, 15S. It's actually typing or displaying rather what I type right there. If I hit 15S and hit return, what do I get? 15-second chart. Now that I'm in seconds, if I want this to be a 30-second chart, all I got to do is hit 30, enter, and it keeps the periodicity, the unit of measure that I'm working in, minutes, seconds, whatever, hours, days. If I wanted a 45-second chart, I can just do 45, enter. If I want to change this back to a minute chart, I can do 5M, enter, and now I'm back on minutes. You can even do hours. If I did, like, let's say I did 4 hours, right? Now there's a slight oddity to this, which is just worth pointing out. It's not really that big a deal, but let's say I do 4 hours, right? 4H. Well, that's 240 minutes. So Sierra always works. If you do hours, it will show you minutes. But technically you could do an H. If you happen to know I want 4 hours, you don't need to worry about, wait, 4 hours is, let's see, 60 minutes per hour, 6, 12, 8. Okay, that's 24, 240 minutes. I get it. You don't have to do that. You can just do 4 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever you want to see. You can even do days. If I do 1D, now I'm on a daily chart. You can do, can I do weekly? I forget. Can I do weekly? I don't think so. Oh, you can. Never mind. I never do weekly charts. So you can do weekly charts. So, if I want to go back to 1 minute chart, I can just do 1M, boom. So lightning fast to be able to change your timeframes and periodicities. Okay. I saw some flurry of activity in the chat. So let me take a look here. 6, you're asking, you said your question is volume charts. Are you asking, can you do this on? I get. Okay, I think now that I thought it through, I think you're probably, tell me if I'm right. Are you asking if you can change the number of the amount of volume you want to see on the volume chart on the fly like that? Is that what you're saying? Okay, I thought that's what you're asking. You know what? I don't ever use volume charts, so I don't know. But you know what? I want to find out. So let's go to volume per bar and 1,000. Right? Boom. Now we're on 1,000 volume chart. And this would be, I assume, be the same for ticks, Edward. But we can try that too. Let's find out. So we're on 1,000 volume. What happens if I type 10,000? 10,000. Look at that. 10,000 volume. 500. 500 volume. 20. Ooh, now it's going to choke. 20 volume. 100. 30,000. So the answer is yes, you can absolutely do that. And I'm already willing to bet that you can do it for ticks too. Again, I never do tick charts anymore. I used to long ago, but tick chart, they call them, those are range charts, aren't they? They don't call them tick charts. I think standard in ticks. There we go. Range per bar. Let's just start with 10. Great. I'm sure now it's at 0.1. That's interesting. Why would that? What happens if I do 1.01? That's odd. That's a little confusing to me. I don't really understand that. 100 gives me 1, so it's in hundredths. What am I missing here? Range per bar, standard in ticks. Huh. Oh, range is different. Okay, so it's not. Do they have just a plain tick chart? I don't. Oh, wait, number of trades? Probably number of trades per bar. Set to 1. Yeah, number of trades per bar. Yeah, okay, so it's on 100. And now if I do 1, there we go, 1. 300, 5,000, 50,000. So yes, you can do that. You just type and change it instantly. It's super, 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 super quick. All right, let's go back to, let's go back to our standard chart. There we go. Great. Let's see. Does it matter where your cursor is? No, it does not matter where your cursor is as long as the window is selected. Notice this one over here hasn't changed. If I go over here and change this one now, let's say I make it a 4-day chart, whatever the heck that would be. Now this one hasn't changed over here. So it only matters which window has focus. Your cursor can be absolutely anywhere as long as the window is selected or has focus. Oh, actually, so Edward, I didn't type a letter or anything because if it's when you're dealing with time, minute charts, hourly charts, daily charts, etc., you're potentially changing the unit of measure. If I want to go from a second chart, 15-second chart to a 5-minute chart, well, I got to tell Sierra now I want minutes, so I need to put an M. Right? If I want seconds, I got to tell it I want seconds now. If I'm in a different unit of measure, but if you're in a tick chart, the unit of measure is always ticks. There is no other unit of measure. So you just type the number and hit enter, and you're good. So, yes, you know what? I am on a stock symbol. You are absolutely right, Chris. I realized that as well. I was lazy when I set this up, and I just typed ES and it came up and I was like, that'll do. I don't care. So it doesn't actually matter if I'm for these tips. It didn't matter if I was actually looking at futures or not. And I just didn't feel like typing the whole symbol. It was purely laziness, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, but Mike, yeah, T is for trades or ticks. That's true. It is the same thing. But the point I'm making is that if I'm on a tick chart, in fact, here, I'll just go back to it real quick. But a number of trades per bar. There we go. If I'm on trades, ticks, trades, whatever, I don't need to type the T because there's no other unit. If I want to go to 100,000, I just type 100,000 and hit enter. If I want to go to 50, I hit 50 and enter. There's no letter that would mean anything here because there's only one unit of measure. Whereas when you're dealing with time, you've got multiple units of measure. You got seconds, you got minutes, hours, days, weeks, months. I suppose it could do months. I don't know. So you need to tell it which unit of measure do you want. But for something where there is only a single unit of measure, then you don't even need to worry about that. All right, let me scroll back up here a little bit. Let's see, custom. Yeah, that's true, Mike. You can do custom toolbar buttons. Yeah, I should probably do. Thank you for the note on that. I should probably add to my list. Talk about custom toolbars because there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with those too. I don't personally tend to use them, but I like some of the things Lee does with them. He does some cool stuff to give him nice vertical, really skinny ability to enter orders and place entries and exits and get flat and that kind of thing instead of using the trade window, which is pretty cool. But we'll talk about that another time. Okay, let's see. If you want to go from your tick chart back to 15 seconds, yeah, if you want to go back to seconds now, I got to give it a unit of measure, right? Because I'm changing. If I wanted to go to 15 seconds here and I type 15 enter, well, I'm on 15 trades because I didn't change the unit of measure. But if I type 15S, now I'm on seconds. If I want to go back to trades, I think I see what you're saying now. Can I do that? Let me go 100T. Oh, you know what? You can do it straight from here. I've never tried that because I don't use these kinds of charts. So I never tried to go that direction. That's a really cool thing to know. So thank you for augmenting my tip. That's very, very useful. That is for people who go back and forth between volume charts. In fact, hang on. What happens if I do like 1000V? Holy cow, that actually works. Things I never do. So that's even better. So you can literally change completely different units of measure just from here, just by typing. You never have to go into the chart settings at all. That is super, super awesome. I did not realize quite the extent that tip could go because I only work in time-based charts. So very, very cool. All right. Very nice, Mike. Thank you for that. That was a really great way to juice up that tip. All right, let's see. Volume to ticks to time. Yep. Yeah, it just depends on the letter you type after the number. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. You must change the chart settings first to get into ticks or trades. Nope. Edward, as we were just seeing here, you actually don't have to do that. I thought you did. Because I never use these kinds of charts. I never go back and forth between the units of measure. So I didn't even realize just how far. In fact, I bet you I could do R. Whatever. Okay. I just want to see if this works. Oh, no, because R is range. I was thinking it would go Renko, but no, R is range. Of course, it's range. You know what happens? See, now I'm just having fun. What happens if I do? Can I type Renko? No. Okay. So I knew there had to be some point where it stops doing what you think it's going to do. So anyway, that's really awesome. Okay. Same type. Yes, you're right, Chris. You can change symbols as well. I wasn't going to get into that for this one because again, I wanted to keep the list to 5 and I had to cut somewhere, but yes, you're 100% right. You can actually set it to allow you to do this for symbols too, but I'm not going to get into that right now, but just know that it is possible. And perhaps I will add that to the list for another session at some point. So, cool. All right. Well, I think we probably have covered that as much as we need to. So that is really awesome. Let's move on to breaking the fill space lock. This is one that drove me just, absolutely nuts for the longest time. It's just okay. So before I even get into that, let me just ask again. I'll just ask you all, and this is tip number. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is tip number 4. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask you something, and if you ever do this, put a 4 in the chat, a number 4. And what this is actually before I get to the question, are you all familiar with this blank space over here? Right. This is called the fill space. Is everybody familiar with the fill space? You understand what the fill space is? Is there anybody that doesn't understand the fill space or doesn't have any idea what the significance of the fill space is? If there is, throw a no actually into the chat, and that way I'll know I should explain this. Okay, cool. No problem, Stonewall. So the fill space is basically empty space to the right of your current data. So for example, I will do this not with my shortcuts. I'm going to do this through the menus, which I never normally do. Okay, so right here, vertically, right, this is the end of our data. So this is, obviously it's a Saturday right now, markets are closed. So you can see February 11th, yesterday, Friday, 12:59 and 30 seconds, because this is a 45 seconds. Yeah, this is a 15-second chart. So that was the last bar of the day. So this is the end of our data. But if I'm just using the arrow keys right now, left and right. So bonus tip number 6 or something. If I just use the arrow keys to the right, it moves everything over to the left. And if I use arrow key to the left, it moves everything over to the right. But what it's really doing is it's just giving me some room here, just for whatever. There's no data here. And as time begins to march again, if the market was open right now, the last bar would still basically be here. And the time scale is going to march and move, but we're not going to see data unless you change. There's a setting you can change for this, but I'm not going to get into that. Unless you change something, a setting in Sierra, your data is not going to start filling here and here and here and keep on marching to the right. Your time scale is going to march to the left instead. And your last bar is always going to be here. This space over here will always be just empty. And it's called the fill space. And there's a variety of things you could do with the fill space. There's reasons you might want some fill space here. You might have a volume profile or several volume profiles attached to the right-hand side of your screen, or indicators, text studies. There's all kinds of reasons why you might actually want this fill space. But here's the frustrating thing is if you don't want the fill space moving, you have to lock the fill space. Okay. And then that keeps it from moving. Right now, by default, left and right arrow moves the fill space and gives you more or less, but you might not want that at all. You want that to just stop and just lock to where it is. So here comes the question. If you do this, throw a 4 into the chat. Do you, in order to lock or unlock the fill space, do you either go up to, I never do this. I got to remember where it is. It's under chart. Yeah, there it is. Do you either go to chart, lock fill space, check that box, and now look what happens. Right? The fill space doesn't change. Everything disappears behind it. Or do you open up your, no, I don't want to do it through shortcuts. Do it the old fashioned way. Do you go into chart settings and I never do this anymore. I got to remember even where they hide it. There, lock fill space, or uncheck this little checkbox and then hit OK. And now your fill space is unlocked. Okay, Edward, you didn't even realize fill space could be locked. Cool. So you use chart settings 6. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like at least some of you definitely do this, what I would consider to be the painful way. Here is one of the coolest little, and it is documented. Technically, I did go digging into the Sierra documentation to find out, did they document this? And the fact is, yes, it's documented. But unless you go digging into the docs to find it, you're not likely to know about it. But check this out. If I hold down the control key on my keyboard, okay, so again, let me take a step back. Right now, if I just use the left and right arrows on my keyboard, the fill space just moves, right? It's not locked. This is unlocked fill space, which is the default. The normal default is unlocked fill space. If I want to change that, well, okay, I'm trying to think of the best way to articulate this without causing too much confusion. Let me just do this. If I left or right arrow keys on my keyboard, if I hold down the control key, the status of the fill space lock flips. So right now, fill space is unlocked, right? If I hold down the control key, watch what happens. The fill space is locked as long as I'm holding the control key down. If I let go of the control key, fill space is no longer locked, right? So that is not terribly helpful to me. So here's what I do. I want fill space locked normally. So I check this, right? Now you can see there's a check mark next to it, lock fill space. I want that locked because by default, I want my fill space locked. But now say I want to adjust the fill space. Instead of going and unlocking the fill space and moving this and then going back in and relocking the fill space, that drives me completely bonkers. All I do is hold down the control key and now I can move the fill space. And now it's locked. And I can move the fill space some more. And it's locked. And I can, you can just adjust the fill space on the fly by holding down the control key. And then you're automatically relocked again. You don't have to ever go into the chart settings or the menu or anything to lock or unlock your fill space. Just hold down the control key and it will toggle. And it's possible that you're not following what I'm saying because it's a little bit hard to articulate with words what this does. But if you play with it, you will immediately say, oh, I get it. I see what this does. And it will completely make sense. Yes. And you can use a custom toolbar function to lock and unlock. Absolutely, Mike, 100%. I just don't ever want to do that. I'm a keyboard junkie. I do not like having to use the mouse and menus and dialogues if I don't have to. I don't ever want to click a button if I don't need to. I want to just be able to do something on the keyboard and there we go. I'm adjusted. Oh, no, I want to go a little further the other way. Okay, great. We're done. So it's so much faster than going in, unlocking, adjusting, relocking. Nope, no, I'm not happy with that. Okay, let's unlock it again. Let's readjust, tweak it a little again. So, but yes, you're 100% right. Custom toolbar button, totally. Custom toolbar buttons are awesome. You can do a lot of stuff with them. You can put all kinds of cool, fancy stuff on them if you dig into that rabbit hole. You go down that particular rabbit hole. But anyway, so best thing I can recommend for any of you that are seeing this and maybe either you don't understand it or you see how this could be useful is play with it yourself. And then it will become probably very clear. That's a good point. That's a valid point, KH. I don't know what your actual name is, but KH, we'll go with that. Is that bonus tip number 7 or whatever we're up to now. This little green box down here, if it's green, it's telling you, okay, we're at the end of the data series. We're at the right edge. We're at the hard right edge of the chart, right? But now watch what happens if I go 1 bar left. I'm using left and right arrows on the keyboard, right? If I go left 1 bar, or if I click, if you just scroll, if you're a scroll bar kind of person, right? You can click the scroll bar or move back here. See how it turned red? The moment it's red, you know, oops, I'm not at the hard right edge. So watch out for that because it's sometimes easy to be like 1 bar off and not realize it. Everything looks fine. You're just like, yeah, okay, that's where we are, right? But you're off by, in this case, 15 seconds. You could easily not catch that and wonder like, what's going on? Price is not where we are. What? So, look at that. Make sure that's green. So any questions on that one? And again, the best thing for you to do with this particular tip is just play with it. And then it will quickly become clear, I think, what it does. Just hold down the control key and your fill space will be toggled. Yeah, you're very welcome, Chris. I didn't know that one either until the day I did. It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. No, probably a little longer than that. Probably 5-6 months ago or something like that. I stumbled onto that one by accident and went, wait a minute. Oh my God, that is so fantastic. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Bob, too. Control end will jump you to the end. If you have an extended keyboard, I actually you don't have to use control. If you have an extended keyboard, you can just home and end. Home gets you to the start of the data series. Notice now my cursor, my scroll bar is all the way to the left, and now if I hit the end key, it's all the way to the right. So yet another bonus tip. So yeah, exactly, KH. You can get to hit end, and that's what I do. Is like if you ever accidentally are realizing like, oh crap, I'm not at the end of the chart. And you have an end key. If you have an extended keyboard with an end key, which I know if people are on a laptop or whatever, maybe you don't, or maybe you have to do some multi-fingered hotkey modifier key shenanigans to get that to work. But you hit the end key and boom, you're at the end of the data series. So very helpful as well. Cool. So any questions on that one at all? I think I already said that, actually. I don't think there were any. If there are, throw a Q in the chat so I know it's coming, but I don't think there probably are any. So I'll just give you all a couple seconds to type a Q if you have something you want to ask. And if you don't, then we will move on. All right, cool. Looks like no questions. So let's move on. The last official tip on my list today is becoming a hotkey hotshot. So as I've mentioned several times already, like I'm a hotkey junkie. I'm a keyboard jockey, whatever you want to call it. Probably comes from back in my editing days. Because as an editor, keyboard was everything. Because if you could have every command you needed mapped to the keyboard, you could pretty much play your editing system like a musical instrument. And maybe that has something to do with it too. I'm a pianist. I'm a keyboard player. Always have been. So I play the computer, right? I play it like a musical instrument. And so I want to be as keyboard centric as I can because it's just so fast and so efficient. And okay, yeah, you could argue, but you have to remember all these things. Muscle memory kicks in so fast. It does not take long to remember this stuff. So here's a few things to know about hotkeys. First of all, and this goes back to my earliest days of using a computer. I was the kind of kid when I was a kid. I'm almost 50 now, but when I was a kid, I was using computers. My family, our first computer was when I was 2 years old. I obviously have no memory of this, but I'm told that I was sitting in the living room as my dad and his friend built their first computer, and I was super interested and involved. And I don't remember this, but that's what I'm told. So I've always been around computers, and one of the first things I have always done with any new piece of software, technology, phone, tablet, device, my watch. I don't care what it is. First thing I do is I explore every possible feature that it has. I go digging through every menu item. I just poke around. I just want to know what's in this thing. So the first thing I would always do with software when I was a little kid was I would just open up the menus. because they're there. And I just, wow, what is all this? And I would like go through every single one of these things and see, what does it do? What does this do? What's that do? What's this do? What that do? And I would just try every single thing. And it blows my mind still to this day, how many people are like seemingly terrified of just trying things, just clicking buttons and seeing what happens. And what's going to happen? What are you really going to do? Like, and okay, I get it. It's a trading platform. Oh my God, what if I accidentally execute a trade? Fine, put it in sim, right? Throw it in sim. Just push everything. See what it does. It's so worth doing because you will discover stuff and you will learn stuff about the way your platform works, the way features interact that you just wouldn't figure out any other way. And that's how you really become an advanced user. If all you do is learn the 3 things you need to know to be able to place trades, okay, that's fine, but that's all you're ever going to be able to do. You're never going to really be an advanced user of your platform. So first thing I do is when I was a kid, I would look at these menus, right? And I noticed something. I noticed in all software, this was like this. There was this column to the right of all the menu options that said a keyboard, a key stroke or whatever. And they would say, like, in my case, I grew up with, actually Atari, Apple, microcomputers that don't exist anymore, lots of different stuff. But, in the case of a Mac, it would say stuff like, there we go. Command 1, Command 3, Command 0, Command H, Command Z, right? And of course, PC, it's Alt or Control or whatever. And I figured out very quickly, like, oh, if I hit that keystroke combination, I'll get this function. How cool is that? I don't have to go up into a menu and use the mouse and go select something and click it and all that nonsense. And then, like, what if you accidentally click the wrong thing? I've done that more times than I can even imagine. With the keyboard shortcut, that doesn't happen. Of course, you can hit the wrong key. Sure, that's always possible. But basically, you're going to get exactly what you want instantly right there without having to mouse around and look for stuff. So when people would sit next to me, as an editor, when I'd be sitting with clients and working with clients, and many times I was told by both clients and by production houses I worked with, and by producers and things like that, like, God, you're fast. How do you know all these? Where did you learn all these keystrokes, hotkeys? Like, how do you know all that stuff? And I would just go, really? They're all listed right here. It's not magic. I didn't figure them out. They're all right there. I just forced myself to use them over and over until they became second nature, which takes like an hour. So notice these, use them. Force yourself, and yes, at first, especially if you're really, really used to using the mouse, you're gonna reflexively go back to the mouse and do it the old way you're used to. Because again, muscle memory, it's takes a while to retrain those muscles. But boy, I'm telling you, if you want to really fly on your platform or any piece of software, I don't care if it's Photoshop, I don't care if it's your email, it doesn't matter what it is, any piece of software, look through the menus and look at the shortcuts that are listed to the right. So that's the first piece of this tip, is really just look at what's in your menus, push the buttons, try everything, find out what they do, explore, don't be afraid. The second piece is notice, excuse me, if I go back in here, notice that most of these have hotkeys to the right, but not all of them, right? A few of them are blank. Extended line, why no hotkey for that one? Price expansion, why no hotkey? I don't know who decided what gets what, but Sierra Chart is really awesome, way better than most programs about this particular issue, which is assigning your own hotkeys to stuff. A lot of other programs, in order to get your own hotkeys, you got to add a third-party program of some kind. Again, a macro program or auto hotkey or something like that, just to be able to do simple things like choose a menu item. Like, really that simple? And I have to go add this third-party thing and create a macro just to go up here and select something? That's dumb. Well, fortunately, Sierra thought of that, and they give you this option under Global Settings, Customize Keyboard Shortcuts. And here they are. This is just about every option in every menu. I think it is actually every option in every menu, but just on the off chance there's something missing, I'll safely say this is nearly every single option in every single menu of the entire program. You want to assign a custom hotkey to something, anything, doesn't matter what it is. Like, let's say trading keyboard shortcuts by market, right? Here it is, by market. It is not set, right? It's on none. No hotkey for by market. Well, let's see. What if I wanted by market to be, oh, I don't know, just imagining here. Let's say I want it to be B, right? But I don't just want it to be the letter B, because then I might accidentally be typing something and be in the wrong window or something like that, whatever, and accidentally, oops, I just triggered a buy. I didn't mean to do that. So what we can do is we can add modifiers. Now, modifiers are keys where when you hold them down, they modify the output that you type. So, for example, the simplest modifier that every single one of you has used a zillion times in your life, I'm sure, is the shift key, right? If you type just a letter B in this case, right, then you get a lowercase b. But if you hold down shift and type B, it modifies it and makes it uppercase. So shift is a modifier key. Same thing with alt, same thing with control. Those are all modifier keys. So what I can do is I can say, okay, well, I don't want it to be B. I want it to be maybe not even control B. I want to really make sure I don't accidentally ever hit this. I want to hit it intentionally only. So I'm going to say it needs to be control shift B. And I'm going to click assign. And now close this. I don't know what's going to happen. What's a Saturday? It's probably just going to throw an order up and nothing will happen. You know what? Let's change this. Let's go ESH22, I think is the symbol for sim. Symbol not found. Yes. Oh, gosh, chart trading. Duh, that's right, because this is a default stock copy. Very good point. Thank you for that. Chart trade is on. Let's go back to just ES then. I don't really care that it's stock symbol. Doesn't matter. And now control shift B. Did that do it? Nope, that's not doing it either. I'm not actually sure if it'll even work at all, given that market's closed right now. I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, okay. ESH22-CME. Is that right for the sim, though, for all services? I'm not sure if it is, but let's just find out. ESH22- Oops. ES. Come on, let's try that again. ESH22-CME. Come on. There we go. All right, let's let it download some data. In fact, let's give it less days. Let's just go like 3 days of data. It's fine. Oh, keyboard shortcuts. Duh, of course. It's been so long. You guys have no idea how long it's been since I've worked with a completely stock default copy of Sierra. So keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, that's over here. Shortcuts enabled. There we go. All right, cool. And let's get off of, let's go to a 5-minute chart. So there we go. Cool. Data should load more quickly here. In fact, let's just go to a 30-minute. Here comes the data. Wait a minute. What? I sold it 3 days, I thought. Yeah, 3 days. What are you doing? Why are you loading so much data? That's weird. Peculiar. Maybe it's just remembering the original 30-day and it's just decided that, nope, I'm getting 30 days worth. I don't know, whatever. Well, anyhow, let's just see what happens if I do Control Shift B. Here we go. And now we have a confirmation because I haven't turned off confirmations. And it's going to say, oh, okay, I'll buy the market. There we go. And there's my order. Of course, it's still loading data. So it's all crazy and doing weird things, but whatever. You get the point. So now let me actually open up my trade window. Now that I've done this silly thing, let's get flat. There we go. Confirmations go away. All right. So that's the point. I can make my own keyboard shortcuts for anything in the program, including buying and selling. I could do sell market. Same thing. I could just say, okay, let's make that Control Shift and we'll make it an S. Scroll down here. Control Shift S. So I have Control Shift B for buy, Control Shift S for sell, if that's the kind of thing you wanted to do. And now you're not limited to alphabetical keys either. You've got numbers. You got number pad. So this is a handy thing to know. 0, right, is different from number pad 0, which is really cool. If you have an extended keyboard with a number pad on it, I'm a big fan of the 10 key number pads. I used to do data entry when I was a kid, one of my first jobs. And so I got really good at 10 key by touch. I can just completely, without looking, I can 10 key perfectly. So being able to have stuff assigned to the number pad different from the numbers at the top of the keyboard is really handy. And you've also got, plus, minus, slash, space, up, page down. And, there's the whole list. There's a lot of options. You can also do all the function keys, which is really useful as well. So you've got a universe of possibilities here for being able to create your own hotkeys for whatever function you want to do. And it's so much more efficient than clicking, moving a mouse and clicking. Now, that being said, I know there are lots of reasons why some people need to use a mouse. It could be ergonomics. It could be, physical limitations that prevent you from being able to use hotkeys or, whatever. There's as many different people as there are, different ways to trade. So this is obviously not something that absolutely everybody must do and should do. And if you don't do it, there's something wrong with you. No, but you should know that this is there, because being able to customize this is really awesome. You can even go really down the rabbit hole, as I have done, and you can map this stuff to an alternate input device. You could buy yourself a dedicated keypad, or like an Elgato Stream Deck, right? And you could map buttons to that, have physical buttons for stuff. Or you could do like I've done. You could use an Xbox controller. I don't actually trade on this much anymore, because these days I'm trading multiple domes, multiple instruments simultaneously, and the using a gaming controller doesn't work so well with that for various reasons I won't get into now. But you can do that. I posted about this in the Facebook group. I talked about it in some pretty deep detail quite some time ago. But I mapped every function I would ever use in a given trading day to all the different buttons on an Xbox controller, including modifier keys. So I mapped shift and control to left bumper and right bumper. So I had the ability to do shift something. I could do control something. I could do shift control something. I could do no modifier and press the buttons. It opened up such a universe of flexibility and control that I could just sit here with the controller in my lap and never have to touch the mouse, never have to touch the keyboard, and just do whatever I need. I can move orders. I could do everything. And it's really slick. So you can do that kind of thing. You can use any sort of custom input device you want, and just know that all of your shortcut options are here, and you can set them up any way you want. So let's see. Was there anything else I was going to say about hotkeys in specific? I don't think so. Main thing is just knowing that they're there. Oh, although, you know what? I will highlight this because it came up, because this is a default copy of Sierra. I wasn't realizing that. You do have to, as was mentioned by Mike, Mike, you clearly are a power user of Sierra. It's awesome to have you here. You've been very helpful and lots of contribution. You do need to enable trading keyboard shortcuts enabled. So that is a critical component that has to be turned on. Otherwise, your trading keyboard shortcuts will not be enabled. Funny how that is. So be aware of that. And also, of course, if you're going to enter trades on a chart, make sure chart trade mode is turned on. If you want to see a trading DOM, to verify what you're doing and so forth, you make sure you have that up as well. All that usual kind of stuff. And maybe I'll do another session at some point on using trade windows and DOMs and things like that. But anyway, so I think that covers hotkeys. Any questions on hotkeys? If you do, throw a Q in the what do you call this thing? The chat. Anyway, yes. So that's it for hotkeys. We are at an hour and about 10-ish from the time I actually started. So you know what? Yeah, there's time. I'll do my bonus tip after all, which is so this is theoretically tip 6. Tell me in the chat, throw a 6 down if to access, items in the menu. Well, actually, I know what the answer is going to be. Of course, it's going to be yes. Let me flip that around. Do any of you use this right-click menu, the context menu, what I would call it? Do any of you ever right-click here and use any of the stuff that's in here? Okay, cool. You do? Yep. Okay, good. Awesome. All right. Oh, sweet. It looks like a lot of you do. So now the question is, did you realize, and my guess is if you use it, you probably do, but you can put whatever you want in that menu. It's completely customizable. You do not have to stick with what's in here. You can put anything in there you want. If you go to global settings and customize chart shortcut menu, you can just put whatever stuff in there you want and make it your own custom list of things. And again, much like the hotkeys, they've basically got every single solitary bloody thing in the entire program in here. Of course, it's a big, ugly, honking, horrible list. It's painful to sit here and scroll through. It is. I mean, look how long this is. I mean, look at me scrolling and look how little my scroll bar is moving. It's ridiculous. It's so bloody long. And no problem. I'll show you again. So it's under global settings, customize chart shortcut menu. Yeah, if you're, and some people are mousers. Sounds like I'm talking about a cat. And if you're a mouser and you like this right click, and I use it sometimes too. I have a variety of stuff in here that's sometimes my hand's on the mouse because I'm working with the dome or whatever, and it's just easier to just right click and choose it. Like for me, turning the menus, or not the menus, excuse me, well, menus too, but title bar mostly. Like you can go to chart and show title bar, and the title bar disappears. I mostly like to not see title bars. Because they just take up, I want every pixel on my screen, right? Real estate is precious and so forth. So I have show title bar in that menu. So all I got to do when I want the title bar there is right click, boom, turn it on, do what I want with it, right click, boom, turn it off. And so, yeah, global settings, customize chart shortcut menu. There's actually two parts to this menu. There's chart shortcuts, but there are also chart trade menu, buy market, sell market, buy limit, sell limit, etc. Buy market, sell market, buy limit, sell limit, etc. So you've actually got the left-hand column here and the right-hand column. The left-hand column is chart trade menu. The right-hand column is chart shortcut menu. And you can customize both of them to your heart's content, put whatever stuff on them you want. And it's really handy for like your most often used stuff to just have it right there at just a simple right click. So let's see, another one from Mike. Awesome. You can put a chart trading menu inside the right click. Wait, you can put a chart trading menu inside the right click chart settings menu. Customize that. A chart trade. Wow. Oh, wait, what? You're saying I could put this list here into this here as a sub menu instead of taking up space over here, is what I'm understanding. Is that what you're saying, Mike? Yeah, I love that. But where would I get this to put it in here? That's what I'm struggling to. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you could find that, I would love to include that here because that is a wicked cool trick that I just never would have thought to try. Global settings, chart trade settings, global settings, chart trade settings. Oh, really? Oh, you have to do it in here. Really? Oh, display trade window control. Well, that just turns them off, right? So that's just, if I turn these off, that'll just make them all go away, right? So now if I right click, nope, they're still there. So I don't, Oh, wait, that's trade window. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. You said chart trade settings. I don't see that. Display chart trade commands as submenu. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Display. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Display chart trade commands as submenu. Oh, my God. Ha! Oh, that's awesome. Wow. And there they are. That is wicked cool. Thank you, Mike. That's awesome. That is a really, really useful, cool tip to know. So awesome. Well, you are illustrating the power of Gestalt. That we are better together. We are stronger together. We are more than the sum of our parts. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to accidentally click on something and go, whoops, I just bought market, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Ask you how you know that. All of these lessons, aren't these all learned through some kind of hard lesson? Yeah, I can't tell you how many things I've learned the hard way, like having an Audible alert for when the data feed is disconnected. How did I learn that one? Yeah, I don't want to remember, actually, quite frankly. Awesome. That was a really, really cool way to wrap up the tips. So before I wrap this up and give you a couple of resources to go to after this, are there any questions about that at all? Any questions about what we just talked about? And obviously, you'll be able to review the video again and, the recording, whatever. So if you missed something because it went by too quickly, you'll be able to see it again. But any questions at all? If there are, throw a Q in the chat. And if not, I will go ahead and move on. All right, cool. In that case, so what the hell did that guy just say? Here is the summary, the TLDR of the 5 tips that I shared. Of course, we're not talking about the 6th one, which Mike enhanced significantly for us. But these are the 5 main tips. And here's the things you need to know about them in basic. Obviously, you can go back and watch the recording again to get the nitty gritty detail. But here's a quick summary of what we talked about, just how to know that an Audible alert for when you lose your data feed, get your time zone set right. Toggle your time frames quickly and easily between whatever the heck you want to do, even more than I realized, in fact. That fill space lock, how to break that on the fly, toggle it on the fly, and how to make yourself a keyboard hot shot. Are there any questions whatsoever at this point about anything that I talked about, or even anything? And if it's something I can speak to real quick, I will go ahead and do that. I am going to talk in just a second about my future plans for sessions like this, because I love doing this. It's a lot of fun, and I think you get something out of it. So I plan to do more of these, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm also going to talk just briefly about TRG and tell you a little bit about what we are, of course. So any questions at all, like I said, throw a Q in the chat if you have a question of any kind. And if you don't, I will go ahead and move on. So, want to learn more about TRG? Do you want some free education? Or maybe you just can't get enough of me. They love me. They really love me. So, tradingresearchgroup.com, probably no surprise to most of you. You can check out what we're up to over at TRG there. In particular, we have a new free course that we put together recently called Tools of the Trade. Get it? It's a joke. Anyway, it's an online course. It doesn't require any live attendance of anything. You can do it on your phone or on the computer or, while you're sitting on the toilet, whatever. That's your business. And it's completely free. You can just check it out. It basically goes over the various tools that we use, why we use them, what their importance is, what their value is, et cetera. And then if you like that format of presentation, if you think that we have something to offer that you might get something out of, there's a second level of that course, or not really of that course. Sorry, there's a second course called The Art of Tick Making that is ridiculously inexpensive. I mean, really super duper affordable, and goes into the how of what we do and talks about our playbook of setups and how we trade them and how to read footprints and all that stuff. And it's also just absolutely awesome. I genuinely think it's the best material on the subject available anywhere. So you can check those out at tradingresearchgroup.com. Now, also, I'll pose this question to the room again. Is there anybody in the room? I mean, I already know the answer is yes, but I'll see how many people in the room, and you can just put a Y in the chat or something like that if the answer is yes. Consider yourself a scalper, or want to be a scalper, or like the idea of scalping, of being, in and out, super quick, fast, low risk, et cetera, and small profits, but just over and over, rinse and repeat. And just, you might do hundreds of trades in a day. Is that it? Who does that appeal to? Oh yeah. I mean, it's not really, in my opinion, Mike, anyway, it's not really about the number of ticks. It could be 2 ticks. It could be 50 ticks. I mean, I've done, quote unquote scalps, or what I think is going to be a scalp. Next thing I know, the thing just takes off and I get 6 points out of it. And I'm like, wow, okay. Didn't think that was going to happen, but that's awesome. But to me, scalper is more about lots of trades in any given day, and they may be small, and that's fine, but you're doing a lot of trades. I'm actually not a scalper. Me personally, I am a quote structural trader. I trade market structure, market microstructure, and I will often take 2 or 3 trades in a given day. Other days I take 20. It depends. But I personally, my personality is not a scalper, but I know a lot of people. It is. To a lot of people, scalping is just the perfect thing, and it fits them like a glove. If that is you, you might want to check this out. So here's the TRG website, as I was talking about. Here's the free Tools of the Trade course. You can just click and roll, and boom, you're in, and check it out, and it's free. And then here's the follow-up course for a whopping $69. Or the best deal of all, not to get all salesy on you or anything like that, but if TRG seems to resonate with you, for $100 a month, you get not only both of these courses, but every single other thing in TRG, a ridiculously massive video library of clinics and workshops and live trading. And oh my God, we've got way over 1,000 hours worth of stuff now, going all the way back to 2019. In fact, because I personally find this super interesting, I'm such a trading geek. What can I say? One really cool thing is that the TRG stemmed from an original workshop that Jeff did. It was just Jeff. He just did a thing for people in, I think, the Top Step group or something like that, whatever. And it was like 3 months, I think. And he did 3 months of teaching and trading and demonstrations or whatever. Anyhow, but that was back in fall of 2019, like November, I think, of 2019. And what was starting to happen around that time? COVID. And so the market went completely, there's no better phrase, batshit crazy, and, limit down days and insane volatility. And that was when he was teaching his course. So I just think that is so cool. We have a time capsule captured of trading that environment. I know I'm a geek, but I love this stuff. I just think that is the coolest thing, to be able to go back and watch what it was like as a scalper, for a scalper like Jeff to trade that insanity. It's really cool. And then the early days of TRG too, of course, then lockdowns started to happen and we've got all that recorded. I mean, it's just, we really, it's just a stroke of luck that we captured that time in the world, but it's so cool to be able to go back and look at those. Anyway, so there's TRG, but up here, Scalpathon 2022, the first one. That's what the .1 is. If you are interested in really looking over the shoulder of an expert scalper, check this out. You might really dig this. If you just plain want to do this and nothing else, it's $500. But quite frankly, if you just get the 2 tick maker courses, take them both, you instantly get $200 off. And to me, that's just such a no-brainer. So this becomes really, really cheap. And the whole idea behind it, you can see the schedule down here, is Jeff is going to be trading, sort of quote unquote around the clock. This is scalping all different environments and markets and times of day and night. And, it's really meant to show that scalping, you can scalp around the clock and you can scalp different times in different places of the world. And it's not just scalping the US equities. There's more out there than that. I happen to for me, my personality is such that I like trading the first 90 minutes of the day and I'm done. And sometimes I'm done in the first 30 minutes. Sometimes I'm done in the first 3 minutes. I love that because then I just shut down and I walk away. That just suits me, but doesn't suit everybody. So if scalping is your bag and really gets you fired up, you really may want to check this out. So go take a look at the schedule, see what you think, and see if this is something that feels like it would be a fit for you. And we would love to have you. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to try to be as many of these sessions as I can. Although I'll just tell you right now, I'm not going to be at all of them because I'm going to be sleeping for some of this. Jeff is a polyphasic sleeper, which any of you know what that is. It means basically he doesn't sleep in a single block of time each day. He sleeps a couple hours here and then a half hour there and then a couple hours there. And, so he's up at all kinds of oddball hours so he can always trade when there's something worth trading. So this is going to be a really neat opportunity to be up at odd hours and trading markets that maybe we don't normally look at. So I am looking forward to it, but I know I'm going to not make some of these sessions because I'm going to need to sleep. Anywho, last thing, and there's somebody that asked me about this in the chat. So, here it is for you. The Facebook group. It is, in fact, you know what? Here, let me make your life a little easier here. I should have thought to do this before. Let me go put this in the chat for you. I'll put the URL in there, tradingresearchgroup.com/scalpathon for that. And here is the Facebook group. And it is volume and order flow traders. We've got, I think, just shy of 5,000. Yeah, 4.8 thousand members. So just shy of 5,000 members. It's the biggest order flow group by far on Facebook. And we have some great conversations in here, lots and lots of posts about who's doing what and how, and reading market profile and just all kinds of cool stuff. It's a really good group. It's a good group of folks. Not a lot of noise, high signal, low noise, put it that way. So check that out if you would like to join. We would love to have you. Now, as far as this session goes, so I want to do more of these. Like I mentioned, I love doing these. They're a lot of fun, and there's no end, quite frankly, to the rabbit hole that is Sierra Chart. I mean, you can go really, really deep. I want to do stuff on, spreadsheet systems and formulas and really complex visualizations and putting text on the screen when certain things happen, conditional messages on screen. And, there's so many cool things you can do that people just don't realize, or maybe they realize you can do it, but it's so hard to figure out. And I've already figured it out, so I can shortcut that for you. So I do plan to do more of these. We also, in TRG, from time to time, we do just our own little community deep dive sessions. And they're basically just another version of this, but they're just for TRG members. And we just dig into something. I've done stuff on how to set P&L alerts in visual P&L alerts in spreadsheets and in Sierra and all kinds of other stuff. So from time to time, we just we'll pick like one topic, and we will just dig in deep and go way down the rabbit hole on that. So that's just another fun thing that we like to do in TRG. And that wasn't really a TRG thing until I just wanted to do them, because I just love geeking out on this stuff, and it seems to help people. So if you've got any Sierra chart related questions, frustrations, anything like that, whatever, because I might be able to use it for a future session. If you tell me something you want to know how to do, and I say, oh, yeah, I know how to do that, we'll put it on the list, So get me on Facebook. Again, you can go to the Volume and Order Flow Traders group, or you can just find me, Jonathan Van Kloot. I'm easy to find, and friend me. If you join either the Facebook group or you message me, please tell me or us or whatever, just mention that you're from this session. The Facebook group in particular, in order to avoid spammers and all that crap, we do require that people tell us a little something about their trading, anything, it doesn't have to be your life story or anything like that. But frankly, if you want to just shortcut that, just say was on the Sierra chart session or something like that. And that's good enough. And we'll just let you in. We're not like members only exclusive. We just basically want to keep out the spammers and the people that are just blatantly spamming, selling crap, or scamming the WhatsApp group scammers and all that crap. We're really, really clean about not allowing that junk. So if you message me, also just mention you were on my session, and that way I'll know also that you're not just somebody spamming me. I don't use Facebook, to be frank, for anything except TRG stuff and talking with other traders. I'm not a fan of social media personally, for my own personal use. I keep my profile reasonably locked down. So if you message me, I'll want to know that you're real and you're not some scammer trying to get me to do something stupid, etc. So just tell me you're from this group and we're good, or you're from this session rather, and we're good. All right. So I am now going to say something that we generally end most TRG sessions, if not all TRG sessions with, which is burning desires. Basically, it just means, is there anything you just got to get off your chest? Anything that's just eating you alive? You're going to just be consumed if you don't say this or ask this or whatever. So, it's your last shot for questions on this session or commentary or anything like that. If you've got anything you want me to know or anything you want to ask or anything you want to talk about for a moment or anything like that, now is your chance. Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up here. Only went slightly over by about maybe 20 minutes or so. So not too terrible. This kind of session could easily go for hours. I could just keep going. So I feel like, a little over what I was hoping for, but I suspected that would happen. So anything else? I'll give you all a few seconds just to throw stuff in the chat if there's anything else you want to say or ask. And I'm now going to have a sip of something for the first time the whole session. This is what I always do. I forget to hydrate. I sit here with drinks in front of me and I literally never pause to take a drink. That's just awful. Okay, cool. It looks like there's no burning desires, in which case we are done. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. To everybody watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording as well. And maybe I'll get to know some of you either in the Facebook group or in TRG or, whatever. But yeah, this has been a ton of fun. You guys have been great. So thanks so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it. And as soon as I can get the video processed and downloaded from Zoom and then edited on my end and then re-uploaded to Vimeo and YouTube and blah, 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 and all that stuff, I will get the link out there. Might even be by tonight. It's only 3 o'clock, almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. So I've got some time. I might be able to get it done before this evening. If not, it'll be sometime tomorrow. So that is all. Thanks again. And hope to see you around. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.